Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, tonight residents in parts of eastern Montana are cleaning up and trying to dry out. This after storms ripped through communities, tearing off roofs, flooding homes and streets, and knocking out power for what could be days. We'll have those stories in just a moment, but first, a Billings girl is in the hospital tonight with head injuries after she was hit by a truck this afternoon. It happened at the intersection of 13th Street West and Grand Avenue. Sergeant Shane Winden says a 44-year-old Billings man was driving a pickup. He was making a left turn from 13th to Grand. A 15-year-old girl was walking her dog in the crosswalk heading north. The truck struck the girl and the dog was killed. Police say neither alcohol or speed appear to be factors. Now, parts of the intersection were closed while police investigated. And now we're going to turn to Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire to bring us an overall look at that weather damage left behind last night. Bob.
Yeah, a lot of things came together last night. We had a surface low pressure cell, we had a jet stream, and also very warm temperatures all came together to give us a number of severe thunderstorms. Look at our storm reports here. There was just a lot of them, but let's just zoom in towards eastern Montana. That's where we had a lot of action last night. Take a look at Glasgow. They had 2.3 inches of rainfall. Meanwhile, another place called Watley had a funnel cloud there, and Fort Peck Reservoir had 80-mile-per-hour winds. Nashua had a lot of trees down. At the Watkins, they had power poles down. That's in Macomb County. Also at the McLeod, 70-mile-per-hour winds. Miles City reported 2.5-inch size hail, very large hail there. And you can see there was a lot of number of different other reports of damage across much of eastern Montana. It was just a wild night. Janelle?
All right, thanks so much, Bob. Now, power will be out for 2 to 3 days for some residents in Macomb County. Let's take a closer look at some of the storm damage across eastern Montana. The National Weather Service in Glasgow says the storm caused damage to chimneys and shingles on homes and campers. The Glasgow Weather Service reports high winds and 1.94 inches of rainfall during that storm. Hail also caused damage and flooding in Custer County, in Macomb County. The Macomb Electric Cooperative, with help from several other co-ops, is fixing more than 130 poles on a 25-mile stretch.
Very intense for almost an hour and a half. There's a lot of damage on the ground as far as outbuildings, barns. The National Weather Service is inspecting a house that lost its roof. The damage was mainly in Macomb County along Highway 200 and just touching into Garfield County.
Fort Peck residents also hit with severe storms and major damage. Take a look. These photos were sent in by Fort Peck resident DJ Redstone. Redstone and his family were able to get out before the storm hit, but this is some of the aftermath. Redstone tells us 2 campers were totaled. One was thrown into a field while a larger one was knocked over and slid over a concrete table. Well, a new Montana law that limits the collection of absentee ballots cast by other people has been temporarily blocked by a state judge. Now, that order came in a lawsuit filed by Montana's Indian tribes who say the law violates the voting rights of Native Americans. State District Judge Jessica Fair of Billings issued a temporary restraining order on Wednesday, blocking the law known as the Ballot Interference Prevention Act. The law, passed by Montana voters in 2018, says organizers can collect only 6 absentee ballots at a time and must sign a special form when delivering those ballots to county election offices. 5 Montana Indian tribes and 2 other groups are suing to overturn the law. They say it essentially halts ballot collection efforts for Native voters both on and off the reservations. The suit says Native Americans often have poor access to voting offices or mail and instead rely on others to deliver. Montana Native Vote will start reactivating ballot collection efforts right away for Montana's June 2nd primary. But they say with COVID-19 restrictions on reservations, it may take a few days to get things going.
Here in Billings, we're going to start texting people and setting up appointments to pick up ballots or drop or give people a ride or whatnot. But that won't happen on the reservations until we have an agreement with the tribal nations saying that they allow us to go back in and resume ballot collection activities.
Judge Farrer set a hearing next Friday on whether to grant a permanent injunction to block the law, while she says she decides whether it's unconstitutional. Well, another round of campaign fundraising numbers are in for Montana's U.S. Senate race, and Democratic Governor Steve Bullock keeps piling up the cash. Bullock, who is challenging Republican incumbent Senator Steve Daines, reported raising $2.4 million in the past 6 weeks. That's almost twice Daines' total during the same period of $1.3 million in campaign donations. The Bullock-Daines matchup will be one of the most closely watched and expensive U.S. Senate races in the country this year. Now, since entering the race on March 9th, Bullock already has raised close to $6 million. Daines, however, has raised about $9 million for his entire campaign. Now, both men also have contested primaries on June 2nd, but are expected to win and advance to the general election. Well, as Montana has moved to reopen faster than many other states, it will shift into phase 2 in less than 2 weeks. Q2's Russ Riesinger joins us from the newsroom with more on those next steps. Russ.
Well, I had a chance to talk to Yellowstone County Chief Health Officer John Felton. You know, some of those predictions that were made about COVID-19 here in Montana have not happened. Health officials expected that cases of the coronavirus would start to rise again about 2 weeks after the state began reopening. Well, it's now been more than 3 weeks, and that spike has definitely not happened.
That really speaks to, I think, is how seriously our businesses are taking this and their responsibility during reopening, as well as how seriously many individuals are taking this. We certainly would like to see more people in masks out in public, but there are some who are masking. There are people who are paying attention to those 6-foot distances. There are people who are choosing not to go out. So really, I think the theme of the next few months is going to be how our individual decisions are really going to impact our collective health and well-being.
Less than 2 weeks now until we move to phase 2, and we'll be able to have larger gatherings, more people in bars and restaurants. Are you concerned about what could lie ahead with that?
Well, I think there's no doubt that there's more risk. I think what this has really become is very much an exercise in risk management and an exercise in sort of optimization, meaning that there is no perfect answer to either completely resolve the economic and social connectedness issues that come with closing and completely resolve the risk of infection. People get tired of hearing the same old messages of stay home if you're sick, wash your hands, clean surfaces, cover your cough, physically distance, wear a mask. But the reality is that is the intervention of choice for COVID-19. And so I think people need to remember that the disease is still circulating. And to the extent that we all do our part as individuals, collectively as a community, we'll be safer and healthier.
Felton said right now the governor's not defined what it will take to move to phase 3, which is essentially normal with some warnings in place. He does think we'll need to wait and see what happens over an extended period of time first. Jeanelle?
All right, thanks, Russ. Well, Montana health authorities add one new confirmed COVID-19 case today. That new case in Yellowstone County involves a man in his 40s. There are 23 active cases statewide, 8 in Ravalli County, 6 in Yellowstone, and 5 in Bighorn County. Now, the state says 3 people are hospitalized. Well, tonight, the Casper Star-Tribune newspaper reports a Casper Child Care Center is now closed after a juvenile tests positive for coronavirus. In response, 58 people, minors and adults, have been told to quarantine. This as one more person has died, bringing the state's total deaths to 12. Well, it's been more than 2 months since students were sent home from school. For our seniors, it means the loss of many traditional rites of passage like prom, sporting events, and even finals. Well, students now are gearing up for graduation, drastically different than the one they've envisioned for the last 4 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we could have your attention, please. We have some unfortunate news to share with you. We have received word from the Montana Department of Health and Human Services that there are now 4 confirmed cases in Montana. As such, the Montana High School Association has no choice but to suspend the remainder of Class C boys and girls basketball tournament.
I remember going into the game, the boys basketball game, knowing there's no cases in Montana. There's no way they're going to shut this down. And we went through an hour of that game and they had come out saying there's 4 cases in Montana, we're shutting it down.
I directed public K-12 schools to close starting today until March 27th, all across our state. I want to be clear that this decision was not made lightly. And
I definitely thought that there was a possibility schools would maybe close or restrict some things, but I don't think any of us were expecting Friday, that day, the 13th, to be it.
Today, I will be extending the directive to stay at home for an additional 2 weeks through April 24th.
Everybody was kind of, optimistic, like, oh, it's just going to be 2 weeks and we'll, come back, thinking this isn't a very, big ordeal, but it turned out to be something a lot bigger.
In Billings, School District 2 trustees made the unanimous decision tonight to continue with online learning for the rest of the school year. A preliminary plan is in place for high school graduation, but the ceremony may have a drastically different look than what people are used to.
I feel like there's a lot of things that I took for granted, like seeing my teachers, seeing my friends. 1 second, they were all there, and then the next, everything was gone.
And tonight at 10 o'clock on Q2, Brandon will bring you this full story. Now, Q2 is happy to announce we will provide a place to watch the ceremonies live from Metro Park. Join us Sunday, May 24th throughout the day live on the CW station. Skyview's graduation at 9 a.m., Senior at 2 p.m., and West High at 7 p.m. We will also stream the ceremonies on the Q2 Facebook page. Well, ahead on tonight's 5:30 News, grab the laptop. We study up on how some Montana science teachers are making sure students are getting hands-on learning to earn their final grade. And in sports, Scott catches up with Columbus's Brandon Davison, one of Montana's all-time great high school golfers.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.